What's up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today's video I'm going to be answering your questions you have been leaving in the previous video about the IMAT, about the exam, about the structure itself, and so on. So how it's going to work, I have selected 10 questions for this video, the questions that have been asked the most, the questions with more likes, and the ones that I believe that will have not only the person but the community itself. So if you want your question to be answered in a video like this, leave a comment below, and the questions with more likes and with more engagements I'll be selecting for a next video for a Q&A just like this. Alright, so the first question we have here is from Simon1188, and he's asking, 1 month of non-stop of work and exercise can be enough to get in as a European student? I'm starting from 0. To answer this question, first thing I have to mention, I always say this, is that there's no such thing as starting from 0 or starting from scratch. You always have a background, you always have a foundation, then of course that could be bad or good. So let's say, for example, some people had unfortunately a poor high school, a poor secondary school, so they are not well prepared and familiar with some topics. Some schools, sometimes they skipped topics that are mandatory in the syllabus. So that is one reality. Now, there are other people that had a really strong foundation in their high school, so they're well prepared. So basically, they are gonna only have to do some like mock tests or some simulations for them to be used to the way the questions are presented to you, because you just really need to do like a really fine adjustment on your route of preparation. Other than that, there's a lot of people out there that decide to take the IMAT after 1, 2, 3 years of break after the high school. So even if they had a strong foundation in the background, the content on their minds is still a little bit lousy. They can't remember pretty much, so they kind of have to start from a certain point that I won't say that is from 0, but it will be a little bit further back than somebody that is taking the exam fresh straight after the high school. So in general lines, what I have to say about this is that for you to be able to identify in which step of the way you actually are, it would be good for you to take a mock test, a simulation, okay? Not just any simulation, but some reliable simulations. Take the past IMAT papers, for example. I think that's the most reliable mock test you could take. So that's the first thing. Acknowledge at what level of preparation you really are. Secondly, and I'm going to mention as well about the being a European or non-European student, if that influenced in some sort of way. But secondly, what I want to mention is that after you realize, okay, what actually step you are in your preparation, you only have 1 month, okay? Now, concentrate only on the most important topics. Get those results from your mock test and identify the topics that you are struggling the most, okay? Because the IMAT, it is an exam mostly about strategic and an exam about precise, okay? The questions itself are not hard. I remember some comments in my previous videos where I talked about some IMAT questions, and some people just writing like in the comments like, oh, these questions are so easy. Oh my God, seriously, this is a medical entrance exam? Like, the thing is, the problem is not the difficulty. The problem is how quick you're able to identify those questions. And your level of preparation will only influence on the number of pit stops you're going to have to make while doing these mock tests, okay? And when I say pit stop, it's going to be like those little moments that you're going to separate to study the topics that you're constantly mistaken. Now, finally, just to wrap up this question here, about being a European student or non-European student. Of course, being a European student will give you some advantages, okay? Because you're going to have more than one option. You're not going to have to rely on only one university. So you're going to have 10, 15, 17 possibilities to get into a medical school. So do I think that 1 month it's enough for you to pass in the IMAT? I think it is. Honestly, I think it is. I know it's not going to be easy, but it's going to depend on how much do you want that, okay? You're going to have to put the effort. You're going to have to put those 10 hours in of study every day. If you're really willing to sacrifice hours of your day until the deadline of the exam and sit down and study, I think it is possible, okay? And the best way possible for you to do that is going through the mock test, okay? Eating them up and getting used to the exam, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter the most. All right, so let's move on to the next question we have here. It's from Teach Chung Chum. He's asking, is there a different structure to the exam in the past papers from 2022 and back? Just wondering, as you talked about doing the past paper from 2023 to 2025. Also, thanks for the video. This was super helpful. Appreciate the comment. And yeah, there is a big difference. If you go and check the past papers from the IMAT from 2022 and back, you're going to see that there are differences not only on the questions itself, but in the structure as well. As you guys might know, back then, the exam was organized and structured by Cambridge, now on is being organized and held by the Minister of the Italy University, the MUR. So they had changed a couple of things. Among these things, for example, the number of questions and the distributions of them. You're going to see that questions from the past years, 2023, 2024, and 2025, they are a lot more scientifically based. What I mean by that is that the sections of biology, chemistry, physics, they are really taking most of the space of the exam. For example, 2022, if I'm not mistaken, we had 18 questions of biology. There was a lot more questions about general knowledge and stuff like that. So do I think that it's good for you to use that as a resource? Maybe. You can use it to base yourself. There will be some questions that might not reflect the reality of the IMAT nowadays. So I would say do it very carefully, because the most important thing about a mock test that I always emphasize and stress is that it should reflect the reality, okay? It should be pretty much the same what you will encounter when you do the exam. And unfortunately, there's a lot of platforms out there, okay, that they sell you mock tests, that they sell you preparations and stuff like that. And I have seen this personally. I'm not going to mention any names, but after some mock tests, some students of the platform, they get a little bit frustrated because they're not scoring enough. They're not scoring what they were expecting to. And there's a reason for that. The questions, when you look deep into it, you're going to see that questions are way too complicated. They're way too into the details. And you know that the IMAT, that is not the IMAT style. So some teachers, sometimes people that are not even teachers, they don't have any credentials, they're only people that did the IMAT and once they think they can talk about that, they decide to do like, oh, I'm going to put a hard question, you know, just to test to see if our students are well prepared. But that's not the idea of the mock test. You're not supposed to give them just complicated questions just to, you know, to see if they pay attention in your own classes. No, the mock test should reflect the reality, and you shouldn't be afraid to give them easy question if that's the way the IMAT is working. So what do I have to say about this question itself is that, yeah, the most reliable past papers from the IMAT would be from 2023 till 2025. Back then, just be a little bit careful whenever you decide to use them as a mock test, okay? And if you decide to use any other source, please make your researches, your background, and make sure that is a reliable source of mock tests, so you're not just losing your time. All right, so next question we have here is from the Rising Sun, very poetic. Well, it's asking, please share your insights into non-Europeans cutoff. Okay, so I'm not gonna really go into details here because I have a video, okay, ready for you guys. I'll be posting very soon just about the cutoff points in my perspective. But what I will say right now is that it's not just because we had a decrease on the number of seats for non-Europeans compared to last year that we're going to have the cutoff points going all the way high, okay? That's not gonna happen. Of course, we're gonna have universities with their cutoff points going high. That's natural. We had some universities with a expressive decrease on their number of seats, but you can't forget that you also had a university with seats going high this year, okay? So that's something to consider. Other than that, you cannot forget that whenever we're talking about the cutoff points of non-Europeans, there's a huge impact of the pre-enrollment, okay? Students are deciding which university they're deciding to go a lot earlier than other people, and they're deciding that based on their preferences. So that can work very randomly if you think about it, okay? And most of the decisions is also made by the data that we had the year before. So let's say, for example, the University of Bari had a cutoff point of 49, the lowest. What do you think is going to happen? A lot of people are going to apply for Bari as well. Universities like that will have cutoff points going high. Other universities as well that we have traditionally cutoff points lower than the others will remain pretty much the same or even go a little bit lower with the changes we saw at 2026. But that's it. I'm going to be exploring this topic with a lot more details in our next video, so make sure to be tuned and to be subscribed to the channel. All right, so moving on to our next question here, we have Elizabeth asking us, so when I take the IMAT exam, I can only choose one university. Wouldn't that same exam allow me to choose more than one? Okay, the answer of this question, it depends on if you're talking on the behalf of Europeans or non-Europeans. If you're Europeans, you will be able to choose all universities. But if you're non-European, you're going to have to stick with the one you chose on your pre-enrollment. Now, it is true that whenever you are registering for the IMAT, you will probably be able to choose more than one university, even knowing that you're a non-European, okay? But only your first choice is actually going to be considered. All the other ones will not. The thing is just because it's one system that is common for everyone, you might see the possibility to put your university in an order of preferences. But remember, if you're a non-European, only your first choice will matter, and it's really important that that your first choice actually matches the university that you pre-enrolled, okay, a couple of months before. All right, so moving on to the next question here, we have from Nikki, and he is basically asking, hi, do you know if we have to choose only one group? I am a European, so I was going to apply to both medicine and veterinary medicine. Do I have to choose one? Okay, so this is a comment from the video where I explained some of the changes we had in this year from the decree. And basically, this new decree from the minister is saying that now you will be given these two possibilities, okay? You're gonna have to choose your path. So if you want to study medicine and dentist, you're going to be assigned in the group 1. And if you want to study veterinary medicine, you're gonna have to be assigned yourself in the group 2. So they're gonna be two different paths that you're gonna have to choose, and once that choice is made and the deadline for the registration is over, you cannot go back. But yes, you're gonna have to choose one of these two courses. But medicine and dentist still is in the same group, so later on, if you still want to decide to study dentist or medicine, you are given the choice for that. All right, so for our next question here, this is actually something that a lot of people have been asking, and I believe they're all struggling with the same problem. Let's check it out. What is it about? I have not received pre-enrollment summary yet. Can I register for the IMAT without pre-enrollment summary? Okay, so basically probably what's happening is that the person went through the pre-enrollment, it did not receive any confirmation from university. That can happen. It's very common. A lot of universities, unfortunately, they take their time to get back to you, and especially at this time of the year that we are right now. I don't know if you guys are aware, but we are currently under a holiday called Ferragosto. So some institutions, they don't work during this time. It's almost like a community holiday, take leave, whatever you want to call that. So don't be surprised if your emails are not being replied. But about the question itself, yes, you can totally register for the IMAT, even knowing that you don't have the enrollment summary. Okay, these are two separate things. They're all done in the Universitaly website, but in different sections. So one thing will not limit you from the other one. Our next question here is from Aaron Eager. He's basically asking, bro, I entered incorrect city of birth on the Universitaly account and I can't even change it, but I entered it right on my pre-enrollment application. Am I good? You're totally good. That is not a big issue because the university is only going to take into consideration your pre-enrollment information. Okay, so that has to be very accurate. Of course, that is always good to have everything matching. So if you encounter any problem with the Universitaly website, they usually block some sections that you had pre-filled and you can't change it manually. So you're going to have to open a ticket and just explain them the issue, and they will have to do that for you manually. So I'm going to be showing you exactly where can you go to try to fix that. All right, so here we are at Universitaly website. This is the main page. Now, there's a couple ways you can sort this issue, but the easiest one would be for you to scroll all the way down here from the bottom of the page. You're going to find two options. So you're going to have here Universitaly website support and IMAT website support. Now, to be honest, if I would be in your position, I would choose both of them. You know, sometimes Italian websites can be a little bit confusing and frustrating, so I would probably shot the most targets that I can. So I would go here first to Universitaly website support, and there's a couple options here. As you can see, you probably can translate this. It's translated as well. So you have clarification, fault, and request. So in your case, it's mostly a request. You want them to help you out with something. Okay, so you're going to fill in a request, and basically you're going to address the subject of your request, your email. It is really important that your email should match the same email that you register in their website. Okay, it should be exactly the same. And then you just describe exactly what are you encountering. Then you can tell how urgent it is, if it's urgent or not. I always put this urgent. And then if it's something like the gravity of it, okay, if it's something that's blocking you from moving on or not, you know. In this case, it's not blocking you from anything, but you just want to make sure that everything's aligned. Okay, you can attach a picture of what issue you're encountering. Okay, they usually take a while to get back to you, but they will get back to you. Next thing, you can do the same thing here at the IMAT website support. You're gonna have the same three options here, and you're gonna have to fill a request just like we did. Okay, nothing different here. Now, something interesting here is that if you're encountering other type of problem, okay, something that it doesn't have to do with personal information, you can also fill a request here if you're finding some type of faulty, if the website is glitching or something like that. This is also a good platform for you to try to had this sorted out. All right, guys, so for our next question here, this one here is very frustrating. I can only imagine what the person is going through, and I know that a lot of people is facing a similar problem, so that's why I wanted to bring it out for us to discuss. Okay, so we had Saeed asking, hello, I'm filling out this application on which I think is University of Pavia, and have been stuck here for more than a month on the educational part. It's requiring bachelor degree, which I don't have, but I filled it with my high school certification, but still is not giving me a green light, even though everything is completed, including the fees. Just education part is left. Please help me as soon as possible. Okay, so there's a couple of layers in this question here, and let's go one by one here. First thing I want to mention is that, okay, while filling in the informations on this university in particular, probably you're using a automatic translator. It's probably not a native translation from the website. And this bachelor degree here that is being requested, it's actually not a bachelor degree. It is just your high school, your certification, okay, your secondary school certification. The reason why it translated to bachelor degree, it's because here in Italy, high school is called Scuola Superiore, and Scuola Superiore can be translated as a bachelor degree. Because usually in some countries here in Europe and also in Brazil, these are separated into middle school, and then you have high school, and then you have superior school that only makes sense in Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, and so on. So the website is translating as bachelor degree, okay, but it's not. You're right. You fill in your high school certification. That's what you should have done, and you did it. Congratulations. But you're encountering problems because it's not recognized and it's not giving the green light. I know that a couple people are struggling with the same thing. Now, what I can say about this is that this can be a genuine glitch from the website. Okay, this can be some problem from their end. There's two things you can do here right now. Okay, first of them is go after all support emails that you can. Explain them to the situation. Take screenshot of everything. Okay, record it with your phone, like the glitch that you're encountering. Like for example, you're trying to click and it's not submitting, it's not going through, even knowing that you did everything right. Because websites in Italy can be really a nightmare. So the best tool that you have with you is to record everything. Take pictures, screenshot, record videos to show that actually you're struggling and the problem is from their side. Because Italians, they have these strict deadlines and all that, but whenever they see that the problem was in their end, they're very flexible to give you an exception, okay, and to stretch the deadline because they know that their websites aren't the best. So as more as informations and proof, the better. So yeah, if it was a glitch from their side, try to get in touch with them, explain the situation. Don't just find one email, find a bunch of them, okay? Send it to the international desk. Go through the Universitaly website to the support we just talked about it, okay? Try to find 3-4 other emails where you can get in touch. Just copy and paste your message, make your message go through, okay? So somebody can see eventually, and even if they don't reply to you at that certain moment, they will see the history that you sent that email long ago and that has not been replied. If it's a glitch from their side, that's the best thing you can do right now. Now, it can also be a problem with your file, the format. Make sure that the format of your certification is a PDF, okay? It cannot be any other format, so it has to be a PDF. Other than that, make sure that it respects the maximal size of the file, okay? That sometimes it's like 5 megabytes or something like that, so make sure that it respects that size specifically, and keep the name simple, okay? Like just certificate.pdf. That's it. All right, so our last question of the video here, it's actually more a request than a question. It's from Global GMR7. So make a video on a new program of University of Padova, Medicine and Technology. So, okay, I decided to bring this on actually to know what you guys think about it. I think it's a great idea. I think this is going to be a good video. And if you guys agree, make sure to let me know in the comments, and I'll be recording this very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And if you want your question to be answered in a video just like this, make sure to comment down below, and we will be talking about it in the next video. So, to the next one.